Obviously, there are some injury updates that I'm going to tell you about today, some of which I am truly upset about, and other moves that were made with the roster. And listen, this is the part of the NHL season where it matters the most. So, how can the Blues truly bounce back after their loss to Nashville and Toronto?
You're Locked On Blues, your daily podcast on the St. Louis Blues. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello and welcome back to Locked On Blues. I am your host of Locked On Blues, Haley Taylor Simon, talking to you all things at our St. Louis Blues here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I want to start off this episode by saying that I am going to try to be positive. Obviously, today it is February 20th, 2024, and some news came out about some of our players and some of the injuries that they've been dealing with and their status. I want to be transparent. Some of this does upset me as a fan, and I think that a realistic conversation to what I expect from these players going forward needs to be had. I'm going to talk about the frustration after that loss to Toronto. And what did the Blues do at the trade deadline now that a couple of these injuries have been kind of established a little bit more here with the team? So, a lot to talk about on today's episode of Locked On Blues. I want to let you know that today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 if your bet wins. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. So I have some updates. And it sucks because, as I said, the current status of the St. Louis Blues is fine for the most part, but we are missing a couple of guys, especially on defense, as you know, that have been really vital to this team's success. And without them is 100% frustrating. I want to start off by saying this too. I believe at the end of the day that the St. Louis Blues have really strong players, right? But unfortunately, our defenseman, Justin Faulk, is on the team's long-term injured reserve, as well as Scott Perunovich, who is also on defense. With both Justin Faulk and Scott Perunovich being on long-term injured reserve, I don't think we're going to be seeing them wear the blue note this season. For Scott Perunovich, he is an unrestricted free agent next season. And realistically, I could see him not being here. So I don't think I'm going to see Perunovich wearing the blue note again. Unfortunately, with the amount of games that there's left in the season, I don't see him coming back. When it comes to Justin Faulk, and this makes me really upset because I have been avoiding everything about this because we all know Justin Faulk is one of my favorite players, but he is 31 years old, okay? I'm not naive to that, and I understand that he is on long-term injured reserve. A part of me thinks that he's done. A part of me thinks he might hang up the skates. Now, I'm not coming on this podcast and saying Justin Faulk is never going to be, playing actively on the Blues again. What I am saying is with his injury and his status of being out, there could be a possibility that he does retire, and I would not be surprised if he did. So with those moves today, with those two players, the status is being more well-known, I think that the Blues are doing the right thing now by giving some of these younger players a chance because, again, I know there's a lot going on today. Zach Bolduc was also recalled from Springfield to play on the Blues. And, yeah, so some moves were made. Happy for the younger guys. Obviously, y'all know my favorite young guy prospect is Zach Dean. But overall, I think that this is really important to talk about. Somebody even said to me today on the Locked On Blues YouTube channel, hey, why haven't you really mentioned Justin Faulk in a little while? Well, the reason why I haven't mentioned him is I'll mention him here and there, how I miss his presence on ice. But it's because we didn't have any information. We didn't know, okay, well, what's going on with him? Nothing was being said. And I don't want to speculate too much. I know I speculated by saying I don't think that he's going to play again. But that's after I got the information that he is now on a long-term injured reserved. I think that at the end of the day, he is a player that I get sad thinking about this, honestly, because anytime you get taken out of the game due to injury, it just sucks. It's not like he chose it on his own. And he may come back, okay? I'm not saying he's going to retire, but for me, I'm having a really hard time maybe grasping in a sense that he will come back and play again just due to the nature of, him with being injured. But let me know what you think. Do you think that you're going to see Justin Faulk wear the blue note again on the ice? I mean, Perunovic, unrestricted free agent, anything can happen. And I'm not saying that he is going to go to another team. I just don't really see St. Louis re-signing him. Now, it's not because he's not a good player. He's been fine. But again, is he a superstar? I don't know about that. You can't always tell, right? I mean, he very well could be. Right now, I'm having a conversation. I'm talking some things out about how I'm feeling about all of this. I am just annoyed. If I'm going to be completely honest, I'm annoyed and I'm frustrated because our defense has been a problem all season. It's been a problem last season. It's been a problem for probably the longest time. And what I don't get with the Blues is why they never got that defender that could really make a huge impact and spent money on that. Now, I'm not saying, okay, well, the Blues now have to do something at the trade deadline, and I'll talk about that. But it just sucks. It sucks. I mean, right now, and here's the other thing is too, everyone's happy about Bolduc, and I'm happy about it. But Perunovic, clearly people were disappointed about him. It is what it is, right? It is what it is. Give the young guys a chance. I've said that from the very beginning. The Blues have a core group of younger players that they need to invest in fully. This is not a team that is going to go far in the playoffs if they do make it. I've said that the whole time. I'm not changing up how I'm thinking. I've said this before. Give some of these younger guys an experience, an opportunity to play a couple games wearing the blue note up here in St. Louis and not Springfield. Now, Snuggie, he's going to come definitely when he's done college, so he'll have a couple games. But that's important. I mean, does it suck that Perunovic just really didn't work out and got injured? Absolutely. Do I think that he could succeed on another team? Potentially. I mean, the NHL is a very competitive league, and I think that sometimes we as fans kind of underestimate the competitive level of it. And some guys are just not cut out to be playing in the NHL, and I'm not trying to be mean. I mean, I know that I could never play in the NHL, right? I mean, for many reasons, but I couldn't play in the NHL. But some of these players, they're better in the AHL, and that's okay. I just don't think Perunovic made that much of a difference when he was up here too. And that's another thing. I mean, he would rotate in and out with Tyler Tucker a lot. And Tyler Tucker, obviously, out of the two, was a much better defender than Perunovic was. So I'm not surprised about that. What I am surprised about, though, is kind of just the future. Okay. Because, and I'll talk about this later in the episode, but now that you probably won't have Justin Faulk for the rest of the season and you're still competing for that wild card spot, what exactly are you planning on doing at that trade deadline? Because this team could go in two different directions. And right now, is there a right answer for where they should go? Not necessarily. Is there a direction that I think they should go in? Absolutely. But I'm going to talk about all of those possibilities. I just wanted to put that out there. So if you have any thoughts about that, again, live on YouTube, Let me know. I'm going to talk about something else before I get into the trade deadline and my thoughts surrounding that. But feel free to comment below. Comment in the comment section. Let me know your thoughts. Tweet me at Locked On Blues because I want to know what your opinion is, because your opinion is more important than anything else. I want to tell you about my friends over at FanDuel. Get buckets with your first bet on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 if your bet wins. But on all of your favorite NBA players and teams with quick bets, live same-game parlays, exclusive props, and more. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and shoot your shot. FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NBA. One thing about FanDuel that I love doing is making my little same-game parlays, and FanDuel has all the best options to do so. So definitely utilize FanDuel's feature because, again, with basketball season, there is a lot that you can do, and you can make some money to buy yourself hockey tickets or money to pay for your hockey tickets. Either way, again, that's FanDuel.com/lockedon. Obviously, after that game against Toronto, there is a lot of frustration. I know that I am personally frustrated, and who wouldn't be? That game against Toronto, it really just showed me the flaws that this team has when it comes to that final period of play. They're a team that usually starts off slow, so you don't really expect St. Louis to always get the first goal, okay? But they actually held their own in that first period. Second period, they were able to bounce back towards the end after Toronto was able to get that first goal, like 30-something seconds in. But it's that final frame. And I don't know, it's because their energy level is so down and low because of how much they've had to utilize throughout the entirety of the game leading up to that. But they just seem so off to me. And this has been an ongoing issue. And I've talked about this a lot with different friends of mine. I've talked about it on here on Locked On Blues. But for whatever reason, that third period, the team just seems to crumble when they have been outplayed, but they're managing, if that makes any sense. I don't think that Toronto is that much better of a team than the St. Louis Blues. But yet in both of their games, Toronto was able to get 4 goals on them, which is not a good thing. A 4-1 win and then a 4-2 win, which is not good. I think that the St. Louis Blues have a lot of evaluating to do, and they have decisions to make. But the reason why this game was so frustrating, it was because they had a shot, right? I mean, they really had a shot, and they blew it. I mean, Torrey Krug, say what you want about him. He's been having a better season, but at the end of the day, it just this team needs to work on their defense some more. And I don't know what else I can say about it besides the fact that their defense is just not good enough. I know Stella, my cat right now, is watching this podcast because she's sitting on me. But the defense has a lot of work. And I think bringing up some of the younger players is going to be a solution for that because they get outplayed on defense and they look slow. They can't get back fast enough and their positioning is off. And sure, has their defense been better than I thought it would be this season? Yes, it actually has been. So shout out to them on that. But overall, it's still not a good defense. And I think that you have to look at the players on your team and say, okay, something isn't meshing. And I like Letty. I like him a lot. I like Colton Parayko. But again, Colton's another guy who might be traded at the deadline. And that's a realistic thought. So my frustration too, it's not just the defense. Defense is easy to blame. It's also the offense. It's also Torrey Krug. And not Torrey Krug, Jordan Kyrou. I wasn't because Torrey Krug scored. My bad. It's also Pavel Buchnevich, who that whole first line, by the way, the one that Robert Thomas centers with now it is Bushi and Krug, not Krug, Kyrou. I keep on doing that. Oh my god. Maybe it's the K's. But that whole first line has been playing good in the past couple of games, and it's looked atrocious on ice. Honestly, I think that third, I mean, that third line, the fourth line's looked okay. The third line, they're holding their own, but not doing anything. The fourth and second line have been doing the best because, again, Neighbors is on that second line with Shenny. So it's frustrating. It's not good. It's very bad and sloppy hockey. And I'm not going to blame Robert Thomas because, again, Robert Thomas has been kind of the backbone of this team. But what I do want to say, though, is I don't understand at all why Jordan Kyrou was put on that first line. I really don't get it. He was fine in the second line. I would actually switch Kyrou and Neighbors, and I've said that before. I think Jake Neighbors plays a lot better with Robert Thomas than anything. Their chemistry is unmatched too on the ice. I mean, it does look very drastically different when you see Neighbors playing with Thomas versus when you see Kyrou with Thomas. And I'm not hating on Jordan Kyrou whatsoever. I'm just saying very realistically, if I were to be an outsider looking in, I would say that the better fit would be Neighbors to be on that line, that first line, than it would be for Jordan Kyrou. But also, I am not going to excuse Pavel Buchnevich because he has not been playing great hockey. And I think he's had this sense of frustration all season. And you saw that it was about a couple months ago when he took the stick and he slammed it after he got the empty netter. I think it was against the Rangers, if I'm not mistaken. But he hasn't been playing some good hockey. And I feel like a lot of the blame, it gets on maybe, I don't know, it gets on Kyrou for whatever reason. But it's also just, it's just on Buchnevich as well. David M sends a comment in on YouTube and says, I've been a fan of the St. Louis Blues, but after years and years, it seems like that we as fans are satisfied with a fourth place team that will make the playoffs barely. My thoughts. So here's the thing, David. First off, thank you for listening to Locked On Blues. Appreciate you leaving a comment as well. As a fan myself, I am not satisfied with making, fourth place where we are currently at in the standings, but I've accepted that that's the best that this team can do at the moment. Do I think that long term that this is sustainable? Absolutely not. I think this team really needs to just figure some things out. But I don't want to miss the playoffs again because that really sucked. I think that there is an identity problem with the St. Louis Blues right now. And I think the fan base, and I'm not speaking for everybody, I'm speaking for myself, I'm speaking for my friends, like I'm speaking on that behalf, where it's good to make the playoffs. That's a win, considering that this team doesn't play like they should be making the playoffs. And I blame a lot of this on Doug Armstrong, honestly, for the lack of moves that he made this summer, the offseason. The draft was good, okay? I'm not going to deny that. Davor Dvorsky, great draft pick. Excited to eventually have him over here. But again, at the end of the day, that's going to take some time and some years. So right now, am I satisfied with fourth place? I'm not satisfied. I think I just accepted it, which I guess is satisfaction in a way. So you make a point. I'm going to talk to my friends at Gametime. Before I do that, let me know what you think the Blues will do at the trade deadline in the comments that way. And when I come back, I will read all of your comments and we can have a discussion. You shouldn't have to worry when you buy tickets to your next big event. Gametime is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, and comedy and theater events near you. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seats at their best price guarantee, Gametime takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. Gametime also has some great deals as in last-minute tickets, flash deals, and zone deals. It's easy to find and buy tickets to every kind of event in the area, and they always have the lowest price guaranteed. So this is what you need to do. You need to download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON, LOCKEDON, for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. When it comes to the trade deadline, I have been back and forth on what I think is going to actually happen and what I think this team is going to do. With their recent move of calling up our boy Zach Bolduc, I think that the team realistically is going to sell at the deadline, and they should. I don't know if you would buy at the deadline. I did mention before, I think free agency this season is going to be absolutely insane, or I should say this offseason. I think that there's two options, and I've said this all along. Well, there's three options, okay? You could sell, you could buy, you could do nothing. I don't think they're going to do nothing. I think they're going to sell. Why do I think they're going to sell? Because I think that there's maybe an acceptance that this team just doesn't have what it takes. And I know that they do as a fan, and I believe that they do have what it takes. But with their recent moves, I mean, I'm not saying calling up Zach Bolduc is a bad move. It's good. I like the kid. I like him. It just makes me maybe think if Justin Faulk is out, I don't know. It's kind of a crazy concept. Now, I could be wrong. They could. I don't know if they would buy. I don't think they would buy. And if they do buy, I will be very surprised about that because I don't think adding in one player that is going to really change up this team at the moment. I don't. I'm sorry, but that's the reality. I think that there's a lot that they need to change about this team. Now, a player that I've been very impressed with has been Torrey Krug, and that is a guy that proved himself this season. I don't care. Listen, you could hate him. You could dislike him. You don't have to like how he plays. I'm going to defend him because he did step up. And that means something to me. Now, if I were to talk about other players that I think didn't step up this season, maybe an Oscar Sundquist, honestly. And that's somebody that they could trade. I just don't know if they would do that after they just signed him. I mean, they gave an extension to Nathan Walker, so I don't think he's going to be going anywhere, right? I mean, this team also has like 1,000,001 no trade clauses too, so that doesn't help. But there is a lot of discussion about what this team is going to do. I don't have the answers. If I had the answers, I would tell you. But right now, looking at the recent moves that were made, and realistically, thinking about what would be the best for this team in the future, sell, free up some cap space, and get some all-star type of talent. I'm not saying, trade for Austin Matthews, which I know would never happen. I'm just using it as an example. That won't happen. But maybe try to get a defender that could change the name of the game because right now, this defense is not it. Even this offense, I mean, that third line is awful. Awful, awful, awful. I don't like how Kevin Hayes plays. I know not a lot of you do, which we get. I don't think that third line in whatever way is good. David M says, do you think Shen is a good leader? I think Braden Shen is a good leader. Do I think that he's been a little bit quiet on the ice this season? Yes. Do I think that Robert Thomas will one day be captain? Yes. But right now, I think Braden Shen was the right choice to be captain. I don't think Thomas has enough experience in leadership. If he did, then I could make the argument that I think it should be Thomas, but I do agree that it should be Braden Shen. And I like Shenny. I just think that there's only so much you can do as a leader right now on this team because the talent maybe just isn't to the level that it should be at. On tomorrow's episode, I will be talking to you a lot about, moves that the Blues can make, getting ready for the Islanders, which will be our last home game before we go on the road again. Also, I want to let you know, because I did mention this yesterday, we are switching some softwares for the audio podcast only. So YouTube, this video is going to be up. But if you were looking on your Spotify and you're like, oh my gosh, where's Locked On Blues? This episode will be up. It might be a day or so late. Do not panic because all the information I told you is not going to change, okay? So I wanted to make an episode where it was a conversation that could last us a couple of days. So that way when it does get uploaded, you would be able to listen to all the information without being caught so far behind, if that makes sense. But yes, that will be up shortly, and the Locked On team is working on that. All right, I will talk to you tomorrow, and like always, let's go Blues.